What is going on, guys? Thank you for joining us and welcome to the weekly Football Manager show. The date is the 25th of September and I want to welcome listeners on SoundCloud and iTunes. We have done the show for over 1 year now and we have finally ventured outside of YouTube and we are now on SoundCloud and iTunes every single week. And for the first show we had to go back in time and bring James from the Football Manager WizKids onto the show, so thank you for coming on, James.
Absolute pleasure to be here, making your debut on iTunes. It's a pleasure.
We are going to be talking Football Manager 2016 announcements today. We're going to be talking about our current saves and we're going to be discussing with James what the WizKids have planned for FM16. So let's go through some announcements which have been done since our previous show. The first one we're going to talk about, James, is Chief Scout can now recommend players at the start of each window, and you can add them into the shortlist a lot easier now, I've noticed as well.
Yep, I like this one because obviously at the start of the game you get them scouted players, or when you get a new scout, they scout players, but they tend to have the same players scouted all the time, and now that each window they're scouting new players, it's a lot better for me. I think it really will help, and you're not going to have the same shortlist. So unless you give them actual instructions to go places, they're going to bring you new players at each window. I like it.
Well, I don't know about yourself, Ryan, but I'm hoping that, for example, if you're scouting Norway, when a new window comes round, they might turn around and say, don't forget this player who was scouted when I was in Norway, he's a great talent.
That might come in. That might come into this. Miles has been very tricky with some of these announcements. You've got to try and read between the lines with what he's actually saying. But that may come in. It'll be helpful for people who want to venture outside of the normal English, Spanish, the usual leagues that people like to manage in. If you want to venture to Colombia or wherever, an unknown league.
I think
someone to recommend.
I'm definitely looking forward to it, to see exactly how it works, if they recommend people from previous scouting or they recommend just random people. I'm curious to see if it's linked to agents as well, James, to see if maybe agents speak to the clubs a bit more, maybe, so you get recommended players from your scouts recommending players from agents who've contacted them, basically.
Yeah, I'd like to see agents play more of a part and be a lot more involved in the game, to be honest, because they aren't a huge part of it. You do get offered players a lot, but it's usually players on the transfer list or sort of free agents. But I'd like to see maybe a dodgy side of it, really, but touting players almost.
Yeah,
players that the agent's looking for a bit of money, they try to ship them on to a bigger club so they can earn for themselves, because to be fair, in real life a lot of agents don't actually care about the players they have.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what I mean. I think that's a good point where they might come and say, do you fancy sticking in a cheeky bid for this guy? I think that would be interesting. I really do hope, as you say, the agents get a bit more say in Football Manager, just to kind of bring that a little bit in. Just sticking with the staff side of things. Now, when you're looking to sign staff, if they're not interested in joining you, Ryan, they'll now give you a reason. So they might turn around and say, "Sorry, but no idea who you are," or "Sorry, but I really don't want to live in Hull." So it's definitely I think that's a great feature. Something I'm definitely looking forward to.
It's going to be interesting to see. We said it offline. It's going to be interesting to see what responses they've actually put in. Are there going to be some comical ones, or are they just going to be normal, generic?
I think it'll be fantastic, because a lot of the time you're going to get players saying, well, you're not in the Champions League, so I don't want to join you, or you play in a country I don't want to be part of playing in, or your league isn't strong enough for me to play in. So I'm really looking forward to see how that one comes around. And of course they can only do so much in terms of kind of like the media. You only get so many questions, or there's probably only so many things you can hear from this, but it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Well, I mean, I completely understand. I completely support Sports Interactive in the way they do that, in terms of this they can't add a million answers in, because it's just going to take up so. Imagine how much megabytes it's going to take to add all this random stuff in. So I think it's fantastic that they are improving it bit by bit each year.
Of course, but I think they should mix it up, the media, because it tends to be, in recent years, there was a big change, I think, around FM13, FM14, but it tends to be kind of the same media answers or questions, but they just add a few on each year, and I'd kind of like to see them sort of revamp the whole thing and mix it up really, get something new. I think this is going to be the biggest and the best one yet.
I think it
So
could be the
I'd
year
like
they
to
do
see
that.
new
It could be
things.
the year they do that because a lot of people have been asking for it. Go on to the next one, James. It's the condition bar on the 3D match engine, so you can kind of, as the players are running around, you can see exactly how fit them players are.
I am delighted with this one because I'm one that watches every single match. I watch it in extended moments, so I'm not just seeing the key highlights where you're basically seeing goals or hitting the post or sending off. So I'm delighted with this because sometimes while there's a moment playing, you can't really see the condition of the player while that moment is playing. So you will get to see it now, and you'll might twig and will get him off as soon as this plays over. I'm a big fan of this. Really happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. Nice little feature. Ryan, a feature which kind of got a bit of and ahhing during when it got announced was the dribble less feature for the team instructions.
It's not a feature I understand. It's not something as a football coach that I would go, oh yeah, go out there, but don't dribble with the ball.
I think it's
I can understand this. I really can.
I think it's for when you're playing on them pitches which just can't you can't control
They're
the ball on.
boggy, they're old style
Yeah, it's
pitches.
basically don't dribble.
You got to hoof it long.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, you could almost say like minus the front three, like, or even Neymar and Messi, who they dribble a lot, but kind of like the Barcelona player. As soon as you get it, look for that pass, play more direct or play short, play in triangles, just really pass and move, less dilly-dallying on the ball. I kind of like this because some players are not very good at dribbling on the game and they tend to lose the ball quite a lot.
Yeah, I suppose if you can select dribble less, shorter passing, and high tempo.
I believe you can do dribble less on individual player instructions, I think.
Yes, you can, yeah. The next one is, again, a more revamp on the screen changes, the contract scouting reports, staff overview and staff profile, etc. I'm a big fan, Ryan, of the new contract screen. I think it's a lot more focused on them bonuses and the clauses which can make or break your finances. So I really am pleased that they've kind of toned down the size of the actual wage and kind of improved the rest of the contract.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people said it's very bulky for information, but it's information that if you're interested, you're going to need, especially when we get people complain, oh, my finances aren't very good, but then they look back and they've offered someone like 50 grand to play each game.
Yeah.
But look at your finances, look at the contracts you're offering your players.
Exactly.
FM16, you'll be able to see it all.
It's in your face more, which is fantastic. James, the next one is something that obviously you want to just quickly talk about. It's you can now replay talking points, so more highlights of the game. Instead of just selecting key highlights or comprehensive, you can now select the talking points, so the goals, the sending offs. So I'm sure that might convince certain people to move over to the 3D.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of this. I watch, as I've said, my games on extended moments, and the more detail, the better. You want to see what's going wrong or what is going right. And, of course, some of you may know Martin from the WizKids. He has only ever watched one game on Football Manager in the time that I've known him, about 4.5 years, and that was when the Roma Stadium was renamed after him. He played in that. Apart from that, he's never played, which I can't understand, to be honest, because you can't see what's going on. It's commentary. I used to play in commentary alone, but you cannot see what's going on. You cannot make tweaks and judgments. Basically, all you can do, play the game, hope for luck, make subs, and hope they work. I do not understand how people can do that, but he seems to be successful with it, so who can grudge it, really?
So hopefully, stop living in the past, Martin, if you're listening back, and get on the 3D mode. Ryan, a new search for players and staff. Players that can also be staff members.
Yeah, so this is more if you're looking at your team and they've got older players. So like the Ryan Giggs situation where he became a coach and a player at the same time, you can now look for certain players if you're in the lower leagues and can't afford to get someone who's just a generic staff member, but you've got a player that's willing to come and play and be a staff member, why not have a player and a coach at the same time?
It's a great feature. James, the next feature I think is a great addition, which is late fitness tests.
Yep, fan of this because it'll tell you obviously later on if your players are fit enough to actually play the game, because I'm a victim myself of it, playing players when they're not actually fully fit, kind of in desperation if it's not going well, but this will tell you for definite if they're ready to play or not.
Yeah, definitely a great feature. The next one you can have some fun with. When approached by another club, managers have the option to have a private chat with players and staff regarding the move. So basically, Ryan, you can speak to your team and test how much they love you.
Well, yeah, I perceive this in two different ways. I don't know if you can speak to the other players on the other team or if you can speak to your players. But I think it's more what you just said. You can speak to your players and say, "Oh, I've been offered this job elsewhere," and if they go begging down on their knees saying, "Please don't leave," then who knows? I think it's a fantastic feature.
Yeah,
Adds
definitely.
More realism.
I think the next one, James, it can be perceived in two ways. The improving of frequency, quality and usability for in-season friendlies for reserve, B team and youth teams. And is that aimed to stop the people setting up the 50 to 60 friendlies a season to make money in the lower league? Or is it aimed as in you can set up a lot more friendlies to help develop the teams?
I'm actually unsure. It could be a bit of both, really. I mean, I like the whole setting up loads of friendlies to earn money. That helps the little clubs a lot because small clubs, of course, try to set up friendlies to win and get confidence, but they also set up big money spinners to try and pull in some money. And I think it's a good way of kind of sneaking around the system to try and pull money in. I quite like it that you can do it. With bigger clubs, it's not so important, but with smaller clubs, I don't know, Vanarama Conference and below, I think it's a good way to pull money in, and I like it.
Just to remind you, James, for FM16, it won't be called the Vanarama Conference. Just remember, it's the National League now.
Yeah, it's changing every year.
The next one, Ryan, Yaya Toure is going to be delighted with. Birthday messages for your players and staff.
Yeah, these little additional features that it may take up a bit of memory for messages, may take longer to load as you go further down the line, but it's nice to see. You get to see your own birthday, I think.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm sure I've seen mine, but now you're seeing your own players.
Yeah, it does mention your birthday if you play on it, I've noticed. The next one, James, is the backroom advice on moving players to and from your B teams based on changes in their ability and form. I like that in terms of currently you get individual training reviews like saying, "Oh, this guy's doing well, make sure you keep playing him so he develops." But obviously they're now taking it to the next level and improving that, which is nice to see.
It's good, it can only help. I mean, you kind of know by the players' attributes and I guess reputation around the community of who's good and who's not, but this can only help your judgment improve, really. It can really back up your judgment of a player who you think can step up to the first team.
Yeah, I think I am looking forward to it because it will just slightly help the improving and working your whole squad instead of just your first team. Another change, Ryan, is something obviously that Miles has already stated. Don't blame them, blame the government. It's the English work permit regulation changes.
Yeah, there's been a lot, so you may see work permits being turned down on FM16. Like Miles says, you can't blame him. Can't blame us, blame the British government.
The more realism, the better.
The next one, James, is non-players that have been handed a ban in real life will also serve that ban in FM16. Now, I thought that was the case anyway for players and non-players.
Well, I definitely thought that was the case for players such as likes of Arda Turan and at Barcelona, who actually can't play till January, that kind of thing. It's not a ban, but it means he can't actually play. Well, It is a ban, but not through his own fault. I always thought that was in the game. I don't really get where that's come from, to be honest.
I think this is more if managers have an extended touchline ban and it started in June which is when FM16 will start when you load up the game, if they have a touchline ban then that ban will be served.
I think somebody must have it, otherwise they wouldn't bring it up.
Yeah.
So there's a specific person that they've implemented this for. So we'll have to investigate.
Villas-Boas?
Has he got a ban, has he?
I'm sure he had.
Okay.
I can't look at the moment.
Top players are more likely to retire in their prime. It's going to be interesting. It could totally destroy it, where you'll find your players are retiring randomly at just a stupid age. So I'm curious to see how this is going to work. It's either going to work fantastic and you won't see Rooney playing for Yeovil Town anymore, or you're going to find Rooney at the age of 32 retires.
No, I did read into this a bit more and read a few conversations on Twitter between a few people, including Miles himself. I think it was more of a case of they're not going to... We'll use Zlatan because that's who I've seen as an example. He's not going to go and play for Bradford City because he's a free agent. He would rather just retire at the age of 33, go out on a high at a big club. And I think it'll only come into play with a certain handful of players, and I'm talking 20 or 30 players at most.
Yeah, I think it's best we apologise to Bradford and Yeovil. Obviously it's not our fault you're crap and nobody wants to join you. The next one, Ryan, any players who are still active, non-retired, can return for former teammates' testimonials, which I like.
This is just fantastic. Adds all that realism. I'm sure for Jamie Carragher's, when he had a testimonial, a lot of older players came back that were no longer playing, so interesting to see who's going to come back for real players.
Definitely.
If you go further down the line.
This is amazing.
James.
I am a big fan of this. I just really hope they stick Alan Shearer in as a non-player this time, because he never seems to make the Football Manager because he's not actually a coach or anything. So I really hope they have him as a coach in the game. I've only ever played one testimonial, believe it or not, and it was Tim Krul. So to bring back former players, this will be brilliant. I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Ryan, it was part of the new injury revamp. Player insurance is now in FM16, so players, when they get injured, you can claim their salaries on your insurance, basically.
Well, this would be fantastic for finances. I haven't seen anyone complain about when players get injured. Maybe they're not checking their finances enough, but you must know that when a player gets injured, they're still getting paid. But now, if they're injured, take the Luke Shaw situation, out for 6 months. Man United are no doubt taking insurance claims out for that, so they're not having to pay his massive wages.
The question is going to be, are they now going to implement a option on all contracts, add insurance? Yeah, and so then you've got to take into account when you're at the low league, you've got to kind of say, right, maybe I should insure my first team, but the backup players I won't insure because it's going to cost me £10 a month per player, for example. So I mean, James, that's something you've got to take into account. I think if that is brought in as well, I think that'll be an unbelievable feature.
This is fantastic. A lot of people are kind of financial wizards when it comes to Football Manager. They really look after the money, and I believe it's already in the game, as in if a player gets injured on international duty, you will get money back. It's not a lot from the FA of that country, but this is really, really good, because if you've got a player, for example, Alexander Mitrovic, broken leg, out for 6 months on my current save with Newcastle, and he's sitting getting paid 45 grand, 50 grand for doing nothing at the moment. Taking money out the club, bleeding Mike Ashley dry. What a shame.
That's all cry to you. But yeah, that's the feature of FM16. So what we're going to do now, we're just going to have a quick chat about what we're currently doing in FM15, so you guys are kept up to date. Then we'll have a discussion with James about FM16, what the WizKids are planning. But we'll go with myself first off. People might say if you're a member of FM Central on Facebook, I'm currently St Mirren. First season won the Scottish Cup, didn't win promotion back to the SPL. Second season I won the Championship, so got promoted to the SPL, and I won the Training Cup. And in my third season I won the SPL, which is something I never expected, to win back-to-back titles. And I have developed a fantastic team. I think going into the running in my third season, 6 of my starting 11 were players who came through the youth academy. And there's another 2 come through for the fourth season who were kind of in and around the first team. And going back to the being able to handle your finances, James, for the first 2 seasons, I was spending 10,000 a week on my wage bill, where I had 25,000 available, and I think I was the second best in the championship. Then when I've just won the SPL, I was the second best in the SPL. Only Wraith Rovers were spending less than me on wages, and I've been making money. I've made about 1.5 million every year. Then just winning the SPL from prize money, from sponsorship, I've ended up making about 9 million. So I've been able to spend 5 million, which is a massive amount. But I brought in an absolute superstar youngster. So I'm hoping I can develop the team now, and now I've got a bit of finance in the backing to see what I can do in the Champions League in my 4th season. So if people want to follow that, you can obviously check out FM Central on Facebook, and I post updates on there. What about yourself, Ryan? Have you been getting much of your journey to United done?
It's still ongoing. Haven't been playing it as much lately because started teacher training back at university. But it's still ongoing. There will be 2 new updates coming out when I can. That'll be pre-season and the World Cup with England for 2038. So it's still ongoing. Very interesting. I'm having a little play around, getting new tactics in, mainly prioritising bringing up the youth players now because I'm so far down the line. I don't know who anybody is, and I don't really need to improve. Anybody who's following the save will know that anyway. So once I get the updates out, I'll send the posts out and tag whoever and send it out. Have a look. Maybe look back over the history if you want to. If you want to read a massive, massive book, feel free.
And to read that, people, if you just go to footballmanagercentral.com, and you will see along the menu at the top, there is the general FM menu, and on there is a whole section dedicated to the journey to United. James, what about yourself? I know you've been uploading some stuff onto the FM WizKids on YouTube.
Yep, we've currently got 2 saves going, one with Newcastle United. I'm under pressure. I'm just about to play the first game in the 2nd season where I'm under pressure. If I lose the opening couple of games, I reckon I'll get sacked. That is Blackburn away, then Chelsea at home. So a game I should win and a game I probably struggle. But I have got a lot of money into the club in terms of sales, just the window that I'm in just now. And I've got another one where I am Rangers. I've played about 20 games. I think I've won 11 and drew 9, so I'm still unbeaten, and I've only lost 1 game in the Scottish Cup quarter-final against Dundee United the full season, so that's about 30 games roughly. I've only lost once, so it's going well. I expect to get promoted the first season, and then as the 2nd season, like yourself with St Mirren, that's when the challenge really begins to topple Celtic.
I think what we will say is obviously James playing with Rangers, he's got slightly better finances to start with than myself going into the SPL, no doubt. So what we've said we're going to do, once James has time to add some players to his squad, I'm going to export my team now, because I think now is a good time to do it, James, so I don't get too far ahead in terms of buying people.
Yeah.
And we're going to do, before the end of FM15, a battle myself against James, just with them 2 teams, Rangers versus St Mirren, see how good our teams are against each other. But now, James,
I have to say my record at head-to-head is 2-0, so you're up against it.
Yeah, I'm excited to get playing. Obviously, my team just won the SPL by 20 points, so I think I've got a fairly decent squad. But yeah, just to end, obviously, having James on as a guest this week, we definitely want to hear what the Football Manager WizKids on Facebook are up to at the minute. James, what are you planning for FM16?
We've got a few things planned. I think the main part of it for me is to get YouTube keep going, flowing. I'm looking to get daily content. At the moment, recently I've been doing daily content, but in terms of FM15, it's been probably every 3-4 days. But I'm hoping to get it daily content up there. With the first Football Manager experiment I'm going to be doing is recreating the Arsenal Invincibles Last season I'd done this FM I'd done the Class of '92, which was very successful. 15 seasons simmed on that, one season played, and that was very popular, and it got a couple of thousand downloads, that save, so hopefully the Arsenal Invincible one will be just as good. We'll have the database going as usual, which we're just close to 550,000 downloads in 4 years now, which I'm absolutely delighted with, and we hope to grow on Twitter as well. And we'll have a few other experiments going in terms of FM16 as well, but we'll keep a few of them hidden, and we'll have a few videos going up, players to sign, talking tactics, which I hopefully get you guys involved in that, because I like to do one of them hopefully every 2 to 3 weeks, because they're probably my favourite things to discuss on Football Manager. I love talking about tactics.
Fantastic. And just to reiterate there, the database that James talked about, if you haven't seen it in the community, get searching the Football Manager WizKids. James does a transfer database, keeping Football Manager up to date, so you can play with the most recent signings for your club or for any other club in the lands around the world. But that's it for tonight's weekly Football Manager show, all 100% unofficial for people listening for the first time on iTunes and SoundCloud. We are not endorsed by Sports Interactive. But yeah, I want to thank people for listening. Thank James for coming on. And as always, Ryan, we'll be back next week.
We shall.